statistically speaking, if you look at the marriage market in Japan, crossing that 35-year-old threshold is, well, it's basically like falling off a demographic cliff.
Right. Your chances of finding an equal partner just plummets. It's a very harsh reality for a lot of people.
Exactly. But today, and we're talking June 29th, 2026, two massive pop culture titans just completely shattered that rule book, and they did it in a way that, frankly, almost nobody saw coming.
It's honestly a striking contradiction to, everything we know about celebrity behavior in modern Japanese demographics. We usually see this very predictable trajectory when high-profile entertainers settle down, especially when they're dealing with the intense scrutiny of the Japanese press.
Yeah.
But this specific pairing, it disrupts the usual narrative on almost every single level.
Which is exactly why we are dedicating today's deep dive to unpacking this huge bombshell. I'm talking about the sudden marriage and pregnancy announcement of J-pop idol Kazuya Kamenashi and top actress and announcer Minami Tanaka.
Huge news. The internet is literally melting down over this today.
Oh, totally. So for you listening, here is the mission for today. We are synthesizing a massive stack of breaking news reports from Nippon.com, OSAIN, and Koreaboo. We're digging through all the intense fan reactions from Reddit's RJ Dorama and Thiko. And we're doing something a bit different today.
Yeah, we're taking this entertainment bombshell and actually pairing it with hard data from the 2023 IBJ Marriage White Paper.
Right, because treating this merely as, like, celebrity gossip, that really misses the wider cultural implications here.
Absolutely. Their union is serving as this really fascinating mirror for millennial anxieties about aging, societal milestones, and just the underlying economics of marriage in Japan right now.
So to really understand the weight of today's announcement, we have to look at how they engineered this whole reveal. Kamenashi, who is 40, and Tanaka, who is 39, dropped these simultaneous statements on their official websites today.
And they didn't just announce a marriage.
No, they didn't. They announced they are expecting their first child. And I have to say, they framed it with this incredibly poetic language. The statement begins, let me read it, "As the season arrives when the greenery of the trees shines even more brightly."
Which is, a very formal, traditional opening for these kinds of Japanese celebrity announcements. But the core of their message focused on this promise to dedicate themselves to growing further while cherishing their roles and values as artists, parents, and humans.
Wow, yes.
It's super grounded. They're asking for continued guidance from the public. And that level of maturity is just a stark contrast to the sheer panic and frenzy the announcement caused across the internet today.
I mean, the frenzy is entirely justified when you look at the timeline, because it really feels like we missed an entire act of the play here. Let's retrace the breadcrumbs a bit. They initially met in September 2023.
Right, during a joint interview for the beauty magazine MAQIA.
Yeah, and they reportedly connected over very specific shared interests, like they bonded over skincare routines, beauty standards, and their pets.
Which, honestly, that initial connection makes perfect sense, given Tanaka's profound influence in the beauty sector, which we will definitely explore later. But that meeting set the stage for a relationship that finally went public on New Year's Day 2024.
Ah, New Year's Day.
Yes, the classic. In the Japanese entertainment ecosystem, New Year's Day is essentially the unofficial, designated holiday for celebrity relationship reveals. The tabloids literally stockpile their scoops for January 1st.
Right, they just unload everything at once. And for a while, they seem to be navigating that public scrutiny really well. I mean, they co-starred in the drama Destiny later in 2024. They were the undisputed power couple of the moment.
They were everywhere.
But then, and this is where it gets crazy, in October 2025, the local media firmly reported a split. The consensus was that their demanding schedules had just caused them to part ways.
And the narrative shifted overnight. The tabloids, which had been, tracking their every move, essentially backed off. The general public just accepted that the pressure of their respective careers had dissolved the relationship.
Wait, hold on. So you're telling me they essentially weaponized a breakup rumor just to get the paparazzi off their backs?
That's exactly what it looks like.
Is that like a known tactic, or did they just invent a brilliant PR loophole? Because going from an accepted, highly publicized breakup to a marriage and a baby announcement just months later is a staggering pivot.
It is a massive, high-stakes gamble. But it actually happens more than you might think in the Japanese tabloid ecosystem.
Really?
Yeah, because the weekly magazines like Bunshin or Friday, they operate on relentless surveillance. If a high-profile couple feels suffocated, their agencies might intentionally allow a really mundane scheduling conflict to be misinterpreted. Or, they simply choose not to issue a denial when a baseless breakup rumor surfaces.
Oh, I see. So they just let the media run with it.
Precisely. Once the media believes the relationship is dead, the photographers are reassigned to other targets. It starves the paparazzi of oxygen.
So they basically ghosted the entire media apparatus until they were ready to drop the marriage certificate on their own terms.
Exactly.
That requires a level of media literacy and, honestly, control that most celebrities simply do not have. But then again, we aren't talking about standard celebrities here.
Far from it. The reason this strategic silence worked is because both of these individuals have spent decades mastering their own public narratives.
Let's talk about that, because if you were anywhere near J-dramas or J-pop in the mid-2000s, Kazuya Kamenashi was an inescapable presence.
Oh, absolutely iconic.
Right. We all know his era with the boy band KAT-TUN and classics like Nobuto Wo Produce and Gokusen 2. But what really stands out to me is his recent major career shift. In March 2025, after KAT-TUN disbanded, he left Stardo Entertainment.
And that departure is crucial context for who he is today. For a legacy talent to leave that specific agency, which, historically held an absolute iron grip over the Japanese male idol industry, and strike out successfully as a solo entertainer and sportscaster, that requires immense personal leverage.
It's incredibly rare to survive that transition.
It really is. He proved he didn't need the massive agency machine to maintain his relevance or secure broadcast slots. He took full ownership of his brand.
And his partner in this is arguably even more skilled at brand manipulation. Minami Tanaka, who, fun fact, was actually born in New York City with the middle name Amy. She started out as an announcer for TBS.
Right.
But the trajectory from a network news desk to becoming a massive freelance cultural phenomenon and actress is incredibly rare.
It requires dismantling the very specific box that female announcers are placed into in Japan. There is a rigid, almost unspoken expectation for them to be agreeable, perfectly poised, and safely kawaii, cute and harmless.
Right.
But Tanaka defied that completely by leaning into a persona known as Azatoy.
Okay, yes, let's talk about the Azatoy Queen. She really mastered that specific brand of being purposefully captivating, almost calculating with her charm, that usually gets female celebrities in a lot of trouble.
Oh, totally. Historically, if a woman in the public eye was labeled Azatoy, it was a career death sentence.
Yeah.
The public would view her as manipulative or fake.
Yet Tanaka leaned into the controversy. She owned the label with such blatant self-awareness that she essentially neutralized the criticism.
Exactly. She transformed Azatoy from an insult into a brand of empowerment. She openly discussed the mechanics of her charm, her intense skincare regimes, and her aesthetic discipline.
Which is brilliant because by demystifying her own appeal, she shifted her primary audience from a male gaze to a fiercely loyal female demographic.
Her photo book, Sincerely Yours, completely validates that shift. It was a historic hit. It broke sales records, and the buyers were overwhelmingly women who admired her aesthetic control and her hustle.
So looking at this pairing, it's not just a famous actor marrying a lesser-known starlet. It's basically a union of two absolute titans of their respective domains. It's like the legendary high school prom king who also plays varsity baseball, marrying the incredibly savvy, cosmopolitan class president who knows exactly how to captivate an entire room.
I love that analogy. And honestly, it's like two rival CEOs from competing industries realizing they don't have to compete anymore. They can just merge their empires. They are matched in their financial independence, their fame, and their savvy.
Which is precisely why the reaction from their respective fandoms has been so unusually calm and supportive today.
Right. It's so surprising.
It really is. We are looking at two highly protected, highly scrutinized public figures, yet the typical chaos and toxicity that usually follows idol marriage announcements is entirely absent here.
It's actually very wholesome.
Yeah. Scrolling through the threads on Reddit's RJ Drama and the Korean forum Thaiko, the tone is heavy with nostalgia. Fans are reacting as if a childhood friend just sent them a wedding invitation.
What do they say?
Well, one comment on Thiko read, "He was my first and last oppa." Over on Reddit, a user posted, "I've known this man since I was a child. This news made me feel old. Time flies so fast."
That makes a lot of sense. Celebrities often function as cultural metronomes for us. We track the passage of our own lives against their public milestones.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, when someone who poster-papered your childhood bedroom wall turns 40 and announces a pregnancy, it triggers a sudden, undeniable realization of your own aging process.
But I want to push back on something here, or at least question the culture a bit. In celebrity culture, especially idol culture, Fans can be notoriously possessive and honestly super critical of partners.
Very true.
So why is the reaction here so overwhelmingly positive and relieved? Is it just because both the stars and their fan bases have sort of aged out of that fierce territorial phase of idol worship?
That's a huge part of it. The nature of the parasocial relationship matures alongside the demographic. In an idol's 20s, the marketing relies heavily on the illusion of romantic availability.
Right, the whole he could be your boyfriend angle.
Exactly. The fandom's engagement buying multiple CDs, voting in polls, is fueled by that fantasy. But 20 years later, both the artist and the audience are in their late 30s or 40s. The psychological need shifts from romantic possession to a desire for mutual validation. The fans want the person they've supported for decades to achieve stability, because it subtly validates the fans' own pursuit of stability.
That perfectly explains this specific recurring theme I'm seeing in the comments. There is a phrase echoing across all these boards that proves your point. The fans keep expressing relief over the age-appropriate nature of the match.
Yes, that is the defining sentiment of this entire news cycle.
One Reddit user wrote, "How refreshing for a celeb to marry someone age-appropriate, lol." Another mentioned how thrilled they were that Kamenashi, at 40, and Tanaka, at 39, had the confidence to choose a partner of their own generation rather than, someone 2 decades younger.
Which is the standard celebrity playbook, not just in Japan but globally. We frequently see highly successful, older male stars marrying significantly younger women.
We see it all the time.
Right. By choosing each other, Kamenashi and Tanaka are signaling a relationship built on equal life experience, shared generational touchstones, and mutual professional respect.
It's a great narrative for the fans, but when you look outside the celebrity bubble and into everyday Japanese society, that kind of equality at age 40 is a huge statistical anomaly.
It really is.
And this brings us to the data I mentioned earlier from the 2023 IBJ Marriage White Paper. I want to dig into this because the contrast between this celebrity marriage and the harsh reality of the everyday marriage market is staggering.
Okay, so the IBJ is one of Japan's largest matchmaking networks, and their annual white paper is a very clinical, entirely unromantic look at the economics and demographics of marriage.
Yeah.
The 2023 edition analyzed over 10,000 successful marriages.
10,000.
Yeah. And the data establishes that the peak age for a first marriage for both men and women in Japan is exactly 27.
27.
Yeah.
But the report outlines a sheer drop-off shortly after that, right? They track a metric called the ease of getting married, and that metric plummets after a woman turns 35 and after a man turns 40.
That's correct.
Wait, so is that drop-off at 35 actually about biological age, or is it purely an economic bias built into the matchmaking algorithms themselves?
It is heavily, heavily algorithmic. It's driven by rigid societal filters. When users enter these matchmaking platforms, they set search parameters.
Like age limits.
Right. Because of deeply ingrained cultural expectations regarding family planning and traditional gender roles, a massive percentage of men simply filter out women over 75.
Wow.
Conversely, because of Japan's wage stagnation, women often filter for higher-earning men, who naturally tend to be older. The system literally hides profiles that don't meet these arbitrary cutoffs. The white paper refers to this as the average age trap.
So if you don't secure a match by the national average age, the algorithm essentially renders you invisible to the majority of the dating pool.
Precisely. You don't even show up on their screens. Furthermore, the data reveals a stark correlation between a man's income and the age gap with his partner.
Let me guess. The higher the income...
The larger the age gap becomes.
Yes.
Wealthy men in this system predominantly select much younger women.
It's fascinating. So when we map Kamenashi and Tanaka onto this data, they're completely flipping the script. They are breaking every single rule.
They really are.
You have a man with immense wealth and status who, according to the algorithms, should be pairing off with someone 20 years his junior. And you have a 39-year-old woman who the system would typically classify as past her peak marketability.
Exactly.
Yet here we have two incredibly wealthy, successful celebrities marrying their exact equal. At ages 39 and 40, at the absolute height of their careers, they chose each other.
They fully rejected the algorithmic script. And for a woman like Tanaka, who built her entire empire on calculating exactly how society perceives her.
The Azatoy queen.
Right. For her to enter a marriage of true equals at 39 is a profound statement. It completely dismantles the societal narrative that a woman's value or desirability expires in her mid-30s.
It makes the fans' reaction of relief even more poignant, honestly. They aren't just happy for Kazuya Kamenashi and Minami Tanaka, they are celebrating a highly visible victory over that average age trap.
Absolutely.
It proves that an equal balanced partnership is possible on your own timeline, regardless of the parameters society constantly tries to push on regular people.
When cultural icons make choices that diverge from the rigidly expected path, it creates a ripple effect. It provides a blueprint for the public, suggesting that the traditional metrics for success and these strict timelines for milestones might just be outdated.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to carry into your week. We spend so much time projecting our own anxieties onto the lives of the rich and famous. But think about how the relationships of the icons you grew up with silently dictate your own subconscious deadlines. If two of the most scrutinized, heavily marketed stars of their generation can bypass the tabloids, ignore the demographic algorithms, and hit these major life milestones, marriage and their first child at 40, with overwhelming public support, does that silently give their aging fan bases the permission they need
to finally stop stressing about those strict traditional societal timelines?
Exactly. Maybe the shockwave we felt across the pop culture landscape today wasn't just about a celebrity wedding. Maybe it was the sound of a generational pressure valve finally releasing. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. Keep questioning the narrative, and we will see you next time.